Hello, everyone.
Hello, Rafa. Uh, my name's Curran. I'm the, I keep forgetting the word, concierge for today. um, I'll be asking you the questions. We have about a minute left before your official time starts. You're going to have 25 minutes. No, sorry. Wait, I want to double check that. I think it's 35 minutes total. No, it's 25 minutes total. I apologize. 25 minutes total. 5 minutes for an introduction where we'd like you, of course, to tell us a little bit about yourself, but also if you could talk a little bit about the position that you are running for and what that position, what the duties of that position are, what influence you have there. And then after that first 5 minutes, we have 20 minutes of questions for you, and I'll be the one asking this. Sound good? Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we can start a minute early so you have a little bit of extra time on your introduction. First off, thank you so much for being here, Rafa. And this is Rafa Garcia running for the State Senate.
Once again, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's such an honor to be here to get a chance to speak with you. So my name is Rafa Garcia, and I am running for the California State Senate 8th District. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised, and I grew up in a town about 2.5 hours away from here named Hollister in California. Not to be confused with Hollister, the brand. It is a small town that is not on the beach, unfortunately, but we weren't too far from it. It's over by the Central Coast. Some of the larger areas nearby would be like Salinas, Santa Cruz, south of San Jose, just so you get a little bit of idea where I grew up. It was a rural area. There was a lot of agriculture that went on there, and my parents migrated from Mexico into the area, and that's how I ended up in Hollister. From Hollister, I moved on up to San Jose. I went to San Jose State and I studied therapeutic recreation with a minor in psychology. Afterwards, I began to practice as a recreational therapist, providing mental health services for people who were incarcerated. And I did that for several years. And in that time, I actually became a member of a union named AFSCME, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. So I became a member, and I also became a steward. And I wanted to touch base on that a little bit because as a union member, one of the things that I learned is about organizing. And as a union steward, I began to take a leadership role as organizing within the union. And that's one of my first experiences that I wanted to talk about regarding organizing. There was one moment where our managers wanted to implement rules that would have been detrimental to our safety. And so we started to voice our concerns. And it fell on deaf ears. And because it fell on deaf ears, myself along with other stewards, we actually came together and we started to organize a plan. And we started to do outreach. We started to talk to people. We started to get their feedback. And then that was our initial phase to our plan. And what we ended up doing there is we did, on a smaller scale, we did a little bit of petition gathering signatures, coming up with a statement, coming up with messaging. We did all of that. And ultimately, it led to demanding answers from our management, demanding that they not implement the new rules, and ensuring that our safety and our health and safety was at their eyes so that they were not implementing rules that would be detrimental to us. And that was my first experience with organizing. And what came out of that was that when we did those things, when management saw that we came together and we came together with a strong message and we said, this is it, we're not going to stand for that. They listened. They listened to us. And because of that, I continue to be a steward. I continue to be an advocate for workers' rights, and I continue to be an advocate for workers' rights today. I'm a union representative at this time, and part of what I do is organize for labor rights and for workers' rights. And at the same time, those are the same types of skills and techniques that are needed to grow a movement such as the Sunrise Movement, to grow the base of people so that we can get legislation passed at the legislature. one of the things that you did ask me to speak on is what kind of influence the legislator would have. And so the legislator would have the ability to pass rules, laws and rules that would be applicable to the entire state of California, which does include things that would affect climate. They also have the ability to invest in communities such as Sacramento or anywhere throughout the state in order to improve the infrastructure, such as in Sacramento, would be very important for the levee system to be very well maintained. It'd be very important to have access to roads that can get us out of Sacramento if there was a catastrophic event were to happen, like flooding. We need to be able to get out. They would be able to help invest in clean energy programs so that the cost of producing green energy wouldn't be any more expensive than what it is today. And it could even help lower prices. So as far as the state legislator, there's quite a bit of influence. A lot of it does come through the investment, but things like that also require organizing, right? So I'm very much committed on organizing and making sure the community is well aware that we're doing outreach, that we are able to come together, because as a state senator, I have one vote. That means we still need to get the rest of the state senators to come to the same table and have the same ideas and have the same votes. And so that's what will require the organizing. And so I'm very much committed on that. And it would be organizing even beyond the Senate district, because we need as much help as we can in order to make the movement go forward.
Thank you so much, Rafa. And I forgot to mention that I will be somewhat strict with the time. It's nothing personal, but you did a great job ending just on time. In this case, great. I was getting ready.
It's a bit hard when I'm speaking to keep track of time. So actually, I appreciate that.
Completely. Can you briefly tell us what's the size of your electorate? How many people are in your district?
So constituents, there would be, I believe I saw the number. The districts just did change. I believe the number I saw was roughly around 900,000 people.
Okay, thank you. So now we're really into the question and answer section. So you'll have 20 minutes for this. I'm not going to cut you off unless any answers take, like more than 3 minutes. I might start to get in there for you. So first off, I'm looking at the wrong set of questions, but I know what the first question is. So this is your first time running for office, is that correct?
Yes.
And so something we sometimes see with folks who run for especially higher level offices like state office or countrywide office is that they are using it as a opportunity to kind of generate press to potentially further their political career. Do you plan to win? And if so, what's your plan to win?
Of course, my plan is to win. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because I just had a conversation with somebody who asked me, why didn't I take up a lower position so I can build a base and I can do all these other things? And, my answer is simple. One, it would be a disservice for me to do anything else other than to try to advance the agenda that I've been putting up front, which does include climate change. It includes labor rights. It includes single-payer healthcare. So those are the things that I want to work on. Those are the things that I know that the legislator could help with. And my agenda is that there's nothing else to it. But to go back to the plan to win, so my plan to win is to have boots on the ground. We're very much running a grassroots campaign. I understand that a lot of people have been focusing on the money that other candidates may have. And, that's great if they want to be focusing on that. But what I'm focusing on is I'm focusing on having the one-to-one contact, to have the contact with everyone that I can within the district, because that's where I'm going to be able to actually know what people are thinking, what people want, and how I can best put my best foot forward so I can bring that type of change to the communities. And so the things that I've already identified are things that the community does want.
Absolutely, thank you for that. And you're absolutely right that the follow-up question there, you've already somewhat addressed it in that, why run for higher office? And I want to challenge you just a tiny bit on your point there that it would be a disservice. We just interviewed someone for city council. Why is running for this position and what attracts you to this position that you couldn't do at something like a city council position?
Well, with the city council, it has an impact of within the city as opposed to the legislator, which would have an impact across the state. So it's not that it's a disservice if that's what you want to work towards. It's a disservice if I go in trying to run for something like city council, knowing that in the first opportunity I have, I'm going to try to get up to the legislator. So I'm saying, you know, I know where I want to get to, so I'm going to get there.
Good point. Thank you. So you've mentioned organizing a lot, which you're speaking to the choir here. That's what we do. Of course, larger fights are sometimes harder to win. So how will your campaign build power even if you don't win?
So that's actually another thing that I have been already thinking of, because there is, you know, at the end of the day, the voters will decide who gets to advance beyond the primary. So my plan is definitely to stay committed to the things that I have been already working towards. I know within the Sunrise Movement, I was able to take one of the trainings the other day. I forgot who the trainer was, but I did take one of the trainings that talked about coming together and being able to manage groups. So it is something that, even aside campaign related, I am committed to getting more involved with Sunrise Movement and other groups as well, such as Central Labor Council, just being more involved so that we're able to continue to advance the agenda that I've been putting out there.
Great. Can we ask who has endorsed your campaign? And you've mentioned labor a lot, which we definitely also align with, but specifically which labor groups have endorsed your campaign?
So I don't have any labor groups that have endorsed at this point. I know a lot of the labor organizations have recently started to do the interviews. So it is something that I'm currently going through the interviews. But I don't have anybody listed right now.
And a follow-up question on that, is that why you think you don't have any labor endorsements yet, is because they haven't finished their endorsement process?
I couldn't give you an answer on why the ones that haven't yet endorsed. I couldn't give an answer for them, sorry.
Okay, understandable. So you've mentioned some of your career in working for organized labor. How have you all previously advocated for the community and contributed to solving community challenges?
So a lot of what I've been working towards has been through working and volunteering for nonprofits or volunteering for events that are happening. I know one of the things that I would do, at least when I was an undergrad, would be to volunteer a lot for mental health services, and to also volunteer helping communities for language access, because I know a lot of people that were either applying for citizenship or that were applying to get visas, they didn't have access to the language. So we were able to come together and be able to provide services that were able to give them the language access, because the forms weren't necessarily readily available for them to be understood.
Language access is a fantastic thing, so we can definitely appreciate that. Critics say that the California state legislature has not or has failed to pass meaningful climate legislation since 2018. Obviously, we're a climate-focused group, partially. What dynamics do you think have held the state legislature back, and what's your plan for overcoming those hurdles?
I think we don't have enough bold people in the legislature that are willing to think outside the box. I know right now there's huge turnover, a lot of people that aren't going to run for re-election. So I think that's something that could shift. I know we need younger people as well that are coming in, because that's one of the things of the younger generations, is that I believe that we are willing to think more outside the box so that we can accomplish the goals. We're able to see that something that's going to be happening in 2050 is very reasonably within our lifetime that's going to really affect us. And even beyond that, I know that currently right now, one of the state guidelines is that the state is phasing out of fossil fuels by 2045, which I still think that's way too far down the line. I understand that the law also speaks about, if possible, we will end sooner, but we all know that when you put a 2045 timeline, that's what it's going to take. So we need to speed that up.
And can you expand a little bit on what your focus would be on the environment and also environmental jobs as a state legislator?
So I think one of the things that we do need to do is, like I was saying, we need to advance the timeline. So we need to get it down to 2030. That'd be one of the things. We need to invest in renewable energy so that the prices don't get driven up when it comes to people using the renewable energy. So that would be part of the thing. When it comes to the environmental jobs, I'm all in. We need to make those happen. We need to make sure that those jobs are happening and that they come with livable wages, and naturally that workers' rights are protected. And I have no doubt that that's exactly what will come out of it, but we just need to have more people at the table that can advance that.
Good to hear. What committees do you have your eye on, if you have an eye on any? And do you think it would be easy to secure a spot on those committees as a new member?
Budget is always going to be the number one. How difficult it would get, I would think it's difficult, but not impossible. And I think that's the one that I'm dead set on. I want to make sure that I can get on budget, because the investment is going to be extremely important, and funding will always be used as the excuse why something can't get advanced.
And we understand that well, with local struggles as well as state struggles. You know, facing those exact struggles, what would, if you could only get one climate piece of legislation passed, what would you focus on?
You're making that very difficult for me. Just one. I'd want to move up the date, 2030.
Okay. And does that mean moving up the date for all of the municipalities in California? Is that how that works?
Yes. So putting it where we're not being dependent on fossil fuels. So carbon free by 2030.
Good to hear. So we're getting towards the end of the time. Just want to give you a heads up. We have 4 minutes left. We've gone through most of the voted for questions, but we still have a couple questions left. Okay. So I'll give them to you. How would you be different from our outgoing Senator Pan?
Well, I do understand that Senator Pan was focused a lot on the medical perspective, and that was his expertise, and that's where his background comes from, and that's great. I am one that comes from a background of organizing and mental health, and so the way that I would want to advance policies would be not just through the advocacy that I would be bringing at the table, but it would also be through continuous organizing throughout the communities as well. So I think that skill set that I have is very much applicable through different areas, because organizing is the one way where I believe we'll be able to advance the most. People in the communities, they have their opinions. They know that what Sunrise Movement is something that's very much what wants to happen. But the other part is we need to bring it all together so that we can advance it.
Definitely. This is it seems to come from one of our members who's a little more Sacramento focused. Are you living in Sacramento currently?
Yes.
And do you mind if we ask how long you've lived here and how you enjoy Sacramento?
So Sacramento, I've been going on 3 years. Elk Grove was where I was at previously, and so that was 4 years. So I've been in the district for going on 7 years. And what was the second part of that question?
Do you enjoy it, I think?
Oh, I love it. I actually, just so you know my commitment to the community, I've also purchased a home here. I'm over by Southside Park area. So I have a home here. This is where I want to be. This is the place where I know that we can do some great things. I know that there's a lot of influence that comes out of Sacramento, and we need to make sure that the influence is the right influence for us.
Good to hear. So I think this will probably be our final question for you. Many members of the legislatures, especially people who have been in there for a long time, receive almost all of their donations from PACs. Do you think that this has an outside influence, or can they be ignored in office? And just a follow-up question after you answer that, what are your funding sources so far, if you'll reveal them to us?
So funding sources for mine has been family, friends. That's been the primary source. There has been a few donations that came from outside that circle, but naturally, I as far as funding for me, I want to make it clear that my priority is outreach, outreach, outreach. And so when it comes to the first part of your question, where most of the funding comes from PACs, well, I think it depends on which PACs are the ones that are doing the funding, right? If it's certain PACs that have an agenda and they're gonna want to do some kind of quid pro quo, then yes, that's something that we definitely have to be on the lookout for. We want to be on the lookout for anybody that's getting money from fossil fuels, from oil, from any of those executives, because those are the types of things that, although the person that's receiving it might say, it's not going to affect me. There has been studies that show that when, and I'm going to actually relay this to a parallel part when it comes to doctors, right? There's been studies that show that doctors that have been spoken to by people that sell medications, that although they may not cognitively be thinking about it, there still is a slight bias that goes towards that. So we're going to put that into this parallel here. There will still be a bias, even if they're not actively acknowledging it. So we do need to keep an eye on that, because that still does cause a bias. So realistically, we want the PACs that are going to create the best meaningful change to be the ones to be on their list, right, of donations. And we want to make sure that that's something that we hold them accountable to, myself included. I want to be held accountable.
Thank you so much for that. And really quick question, because we are out of time. We're into our kind of buffer period here. But do you plan to stand up to entrenched agricultural interests, which are a big thing in Sacramento, especially animal agriculture?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And I think this also might be a quick question for you. Will you not accept any donations from oil and gas interests?
Of course. I actually, I realized that I hadn't yet completed the pledge, but I did that shortly before I came on here. So it's on my social media as well, Rafa for Senate, if you wanted to check that out.
Well, thank you so much for both that answer and for being here. We really appreciate all of your time and your answers to all of our questions. So again, this is Rafa Garcia running for, and my document says State Senate District 6. Is it District 6 or District 8?
So it's now District 8. Mm-hmm. When I was completing the questionnaire, it was District 6. Mm-hmm. And so now it's 8.
Well, thank you again so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And if I didn't make the ask, I do ask for your endorsement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.